This podcast does not provide medical advice. The information included but not limited to any videos, text, graphics, image materials, or any programs or consultations contained within this podcast are for information purposes only. The podcast does not constitute providing medical advice or professional services. It does not constitute a patient-physician relationship. If you have medical concerns, please seek out your private physician, or if you feel you have a medical emergency, please contact 911. Welcome to Kars Coaching, the podcast where we combine our love for cars, medicine, and self-development to get you to the life that you deserve. Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Kars Coaching, the podcast where we go ahead and take our love for cars as well as medicine and some self-development and bring it to you on a weekly basis. I have two guests today. One you're familiar with. My son Michael is joining us on a little hiatus from medical school. Doing a little bit of studying, and we're happy to have one of Michael's friends and a well-known YouTuber in his own right, Eddie X. So, Eddie, hey, welcome.
Thank you for having me. You said one of Michael's friends. Are we not friends then?
We are not friends. You are correct. So we are not friends. I think acquaintance.
Wow. Unwilling acquaintance
falls under the acquaintance category. Depends. Let's see how the hour goes.
Oh, I see. I guess acquaintance is better than mortal enemy. So.
There you go.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No. So happy that you're here. Eddie, why don't you tell the audience, I know you have a big following, but for those who don't follow you, kind of tell them a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. Where do we start? Well, also love cars like you guys, and it's been just an interwoven part of my life and career. Made it that way because of the passion for cars. But where do I even start? Grew up in Michigan. I am born in America, which some people don't believe, but
you can't say those things.
We're gonna be cutting a lot of this stuff, Elliot.
Anyways, I grew up in Michigan, Metro Detroit specifically. Always wanted to be in the automotive industry, so I kind of aimed my degree. What's so funny about that?
I was gonna say, did you grow up Asian? The way you're saying that stuff.
Well, you know, as somebody of Asian descent, there are three career options: doctor, lawyer, and failure. And I did not go for the first two, so you know how it went. But in all seriousness, I always wanted to be in the automotive industry and was always really good at math and science. My dad has a PhD in engineering, mechanical engineering. So growing up, I was like, I'm going to go be an engineer and go work in the automotive industry. Went to school at U of M in Arbor for mechanical engineering. Started off my career at Ford Motor Company as a vehicle engineer. And during college, when I was at U of M for engineering, me and a friend started doing automotive YouTube videos. And over the course of school, 3 years of college, that went from a very small channel to 500,000 subscribers, one of the biggest automotive car channels out there. And it just kind of came out of nowhere. We didn't expect it. It was a really cool experience, opened a lot of cool opportunities. But I continued to develop my career, so I always had a full-time job outside of YouTube. YouTube was, at first, it was like a hobby on the side, right? We get to drive cars, make videos, talk about it, go to trips, go to car shows, and so forth. But it always kind of stayed as a side hobby, business type of thing, and worked a full-time job. Started off as a engineer. Realized engineering isn't as fun as I thought it would be. I got a little bit bored and actually ended up resigning from a role at Ford Performance working on the Shelby GT500 transmission, which if you rewinded 3 or 4 years before that point when I was in college, that was a dream job, right? You tell any kid who wants to be an engineer, you're going to be working at Ford Performance, testing the latest high-performance Mustang and doing whatever. But it wasn't speaking to me, so started pivoting my career elsewhere, having done the automotive YouTube stuff, kind of running your own business, developing a brand, the social media content creation, and so forth. I started to develop an affinity for marketing, branding, sales, that aspect, and also like more business level things, more of the social aspect, interacting with people, customers, other team members, and tried going in that direction and went to a small aftermarket fuel systems company, did that for a little bit, and then ended up getting recruited to come out to the Chicago area to work at a automotive aftermarket software company called HP Tuners. They do automotive diagnostics and calibration products, and I was the director of marketing for 4 years, and that's how I met the illustrious Dr. Kulisz and his also illustrious son.
You gave me a positive compliment.
There you go. You get that one for the whole night. That's it. But Yeah, it's been
That's been a while ago, right? I mean, that was 2020 when we actually met you.
Yeah, 4 years.
You showed up on our doorstep to film something. And
Pretty much, yeah.
Telling Michael there's some guy out there. I don't know who the hell he is. And
came to visit. We were just talking about that. The Orange Mercy. I had my Nardo Gray RS7.
That was so much fun.
That was fun. That Mercy was so loud.
I remember going under that underpass on 59 with you. It was crazy.
Quite loud.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Closer to the microphone, Mikey. Come on. But yeah, my career has been very interesting. If I look back like 5 to 10 years ago and you had me guess what I was going to be doing, there's no way I would have even drawn a remote path on what I've been doing now. So it's been a really, really cool experience. Been a lot of cool people along the way, including yourselves. A lot of really cool experiences. Gained a lot of just different skills that I never thought I would have. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, it is actually interesting. We're early in this podcast realm, but a lot of the people that we've had on, physicians, etc., they take their core education and they springboard off of it. So, and they kind of sidestep a little bit and they pivot, right? So we had one that's internal medicine that's doing a lot of cosmetics, things of that nature. So it's really interesting to hear how you actually did all of your schooling in engineering, but you ended up then kind of springboarding, then doing marketing, and now you're unemployed, so that's good.
Yes.
So no, I'm teasing now.
Well, it's accurate.
No, but really, it's self-employed. Yeah. It's the entrepreneurial spirit, which I think you actually got bitten by that bug when you were doing the YouTube videos in the beginning and got your education, and then now you're doing the entrepreneur type thing. So how do you like that? How does that differ from having to get up every day and go to work?
It's been very, very interesting. So since college, I've had a very structured full-time thing, whether it was school or a full-time job, a 9 to 5. And after leaving that end of last year, I took a month off to kind of recoup and recover from a very strenuous year, a lot of burnout, a lot of stress, and went into it February. So it's been one full fiscal quarter of self-employment, doing content creation, YouTube full-time. It's been both really cool, but also difficult in a different way that I didn't expect. So I've always viewed myself as very regimented, disciplined, structured. I have a obsessive schedule to the point where my Google Calendar, my friends would tease me. I schedule when I shower on my Google Calendar, right? I schedule when I'm eating. I schedule when I relax. I schedule when I'm doing this work, this task. But now going fully into my own, I was like, it'll be fine. I'll just do all the things that I need to do myself. I don't need to worry about a full-time job anymore. I have no meetings that I need to attend. But that freedom and lack of structure actually put me almost in a paralysis for a little bit, because everything is a priority. But when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, I have 12 million different things I need to do at the same time. What's first, right? So I'm trying to find that balance now. This is the balance within work. We'll talk more overall work-life balance, which was a reason why I ended up trying to go for this full-time self-employment type of thing. But finding the balance within all the tasks.
It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard when there's nobody else coming to you to deliver something. There's no external forces that are asking for things. It's all self-driven. So that's been a very interesting experience. I am by no means adept at it quite yet, still finding that balance. These examples, I've leaned way too hard towards planning and filming videos. I've had this 15 video backlog. I'm a month behind because I keep setting up new videos and new cars and new things to do. But there's a whole post-processing step of it. I need to edit the videos, I need to make the thumbnails, I gotta post them, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for that. I worked 12 hours today already. I need to work on other things too. So it's been a learning experience, but it's been a very exciting, dynamic one that's very different from what I've experienced for the past, decade of my career and life.
You and I were talking about that yesterday. I feel like from school now that I'm done with the classroom work, the didactic stuff's done, and now it's just boards and rotations. It's really on your own to do all the studying yourself. And if you don't do it, I'm on your own. I feel like it's just so hard to get everything done.
Well, I think that's the important part of setting goals. See, when you work for someone else, they have their goals in mind.
Exactly.
So you are there to be able to fulfill their goals.
They're telling you what to do.
When you're the person that is actually doing it from an entrepreneurial perspective, you don't have anybody be accountable to
Correct.
except yourself. And what we tend to do is we tend to rationalize. So we make up all kinds of stories as to why, we could move this deadline here, we could do this there. So yeah, while it's great to actually schedule a lot of things, I think the important thing with any goal that you set is that time-bound piece.
Yes.
If you're time-bound, then you know when you need to accomplish something. You're very good at that with studying. I'm going to do this by this date, this by that date. Same thing with you. But if you don't have those dates, you just keep doing what we call motion and not a lot of action. You're preparing for a lot of things, but you're not actually fulfilling it. So you're not finishing the videos. You got a lot in the can, but you're not done with the final
I've been doing
stuff.
that a lot recently when I'm like, I think I'm gonna be, having all these things all these things done in a single day, and then I realized by the end of the day I'm like, wow, I studied 8 hours, but maybe I did it kind of in an unstructured way, where you like that structure, that Google sheet.
Calendar.
Yeah, that's how I was before with school. Now it's like up to your own, and it's really tough. And I feel like that's when somebody who's really disciplined and really has a lot of willpower, that's when they really shine, I feel like.
Yeah. The one thing with I remember studying, it's challenging because there's no end per se.
Yes.
Until you take your exam.
Yeah.
And I hated that part of it because you can always study more. You can always do more. And I think it's almost similar with the self-employment thing. There's always more I can do, right? My to-do list never gets shorter. It only gets longer. I finished one thing and I add 3 more things to the list. So that is definitely a different kind of challenge too, because when you're in a typical team-based environment, working a job, part of a larger organization, there's usually a more finite end. There's a split of the labor and the duties and so forth, and also ultimately a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 9, whatever your job is, right? When everybody else is done, you're kind of going to stop, right? It's not like you're going to work 24 hours straight type of thing. So that's also been a little bit of a change because there's nothing else, nobody else to rely upon. It's all you, it's all yourself. So it's been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. You brought up work-life balance.
Yeah.
And I hate that term personally because I think it's work-life integration.
I think
And
I've heard you say
especially
that,
if you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because now there isn't that definition where you're going to the office
Yep.
and when you leave the office, now you're doing your life.
Yeah.
For you, everything is kind of work and everything is kind of life.
Yeah.
So if you're smart enough to be able to set it up where you understand where the integration is,
Yeah.
so when it's time to actually go out on a date, when it's time to go to dinner, you leave all of that behind, right? And do those things and then go back to work. But it's really the quality of the time that you spend, not essentially the quantity of time, because the balance is never going to be there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't work in that direction.
That's really true. Work-life balance, common phrase, right? Everybody focuses on that. I used to joke before I had work-work balance because outside of my work full-time job, I'm doing my other work, and it was getting untenable. It was bad. But I hear you on that too because it definitely allows you to just flex your hours around whenever. I work when I want to, wherever I want, whenever I want, and kind of can do that. There are certain things that help structure it out a little bit too, but at the same time, it can be a little bit of a curse because I haven't figured out when am I taking my weekends? When am I done at the end of the day? I was just in California for 10 days.
Tough part, yeah.
And every day, I mean, I wasn't sleeping in like a lazy bum like you might think I would be, Dr. K. But I'd wake up at, 7:30 and I just immediately go head first, right? I'll eat a breakfast, but then it's just straight to work, whether it's editing, answering emails, trying to get sponsorships lined up, doing some research, going out to film, driving, doing whatever until it's, I take a break in the afternoon to go to the gym for an hour and a half and then it's back to it again. And all of a sudden it's 1 a.m. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did all I did was work for the whole day. But, sometimes it'll take that. But being home, I've discovered other balances. Sometimes during the days I need to go run errands, right? I'm going to go take care of something for the car, go get groceries, meal prep. So that's one day that's not as work focused. I'm very lucky now. I have an amazing girlfriend. So spending time with her, and that's really helped. If I didn't have that in life, I'd probably just still be in the same situation as I was last year and just still working 14 hours a day. Right. And that wasn't really the whole point of it anymore. So
yeah, no, and it really depends. What do they say with an entrepreneur? You'll give up a 40-hour-a-week job to work 80 hours for yourself, right? Yeah. And that's true because you're doing something, you're building something for yourself, and sometimes you can't cut off. I know they said when COVID hit and people were working from home.
Yeah, they do
What
more.
a lot of the psychologists recommended, as crazy as this was was to get dressed like you're going to work, actually
Yeah.
drive around
Yeah.
the block,
Yeah.
right? And then go work only in a certain part of your house.
Yeah.
Because if you've got an apartment and the whole apartment is work,
Yeah.
where's your space to be able to kind of decompress a little bit? So you kind of have to be able to adjust those things accordingly to see how that actually helps you.
Yeah.
That's why I like going to school to study, because it's like if I'm even if
routine.
it's like that routine, and that like there's no distractions there. Like I sometimes when I'm studying here, I'm like, man, I'm motivated, but I don't know. I feel like when I go to school, it's just
Your bed's like, you could take a nap right now.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
Oh, go play with the dog for a little bit. Or the pool is looking really welcome.
It feels better though once you're actually at home and you're getting through a full day, like you said, at 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, you realize that you've worked all day, but it feels so rewarding because you're like, wow, look at all the things I've accomplished today. But
Yeah.
it takes a while to get to that point, to have enough self-discipline to be like, all right, I'm gonna accomplish all these things. And even sometimes you accomplish so much, but then you're like, wait a minute, like I'm kind of just piecemealing everything together. There's no structure. Where like school or work gave you a structure. I'm gonna do these things today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's different. It's just very, very different. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. So.
No, it's interesting. You guys keep mentioning self-discipline and willpower, and those are things. Willpower is finite. They did a lot of studies on that. So the more decisions or the more things you do during the day, your willpower tends to actually decrease a little bit. And willpower, self-discipline is actually, it's pegged by different things. So if you're hungry and your sugar isn't high enough, your willpower is less. If you're tired, your willpower is less. If you're stressed, your willpower is less. So being an entrepreneur and having to plan all those things yourself, and you notice that your willpower is kind of slipping a little bit, there's a bunch of stuff that you really can take a look at and say, okay, why am I kind of not doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Because let's face it, self-discipline is the only thing that gets you through, right? It's having a clear goal. It's having self-discipline and taking action that's going to make you quote unquote successful. Depends what that definition is, right? For some people, that's a financial success. For others, it's accomplishing whatever your life's dreams are. But you definitely need the self-discipline. If the self-discipline isn't there, you're going to keep making excuses, or what we call rational lies, which comes from,
I love when you say
think,
that.
I think that came from Covey and from John Assaraf. But it is, we're always lying to ourselves. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. The road of someday leads to a town called nowhere. I think that actually comes from Tony Robbins, right?
Yeah.
And it's true, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
Because we keep pushing stuff back and back and back.
Yeah.
And when, like you say, when you're an entrepreneur, now all of that responsibility falls on your own.
There's no excuses. There's no backup. There's nothing. I like to think that it's the most difficult when you don't want to do it. And then when you do it, that's when it's most rewarding, right? It's like going to the gym. The days that I don't want to go to the gym are the days that I feel the best after going and doing it.
like
The days that
action.
I don't want to film, I don't want to have to go out and talk and film all these detail shots, whatever. And I just like, all right, just suck it up, grab all the stuff, go out, do it. I feel the best.
Yeah,
Right?
what it's doing is it's building self-confidence.
Yeah.
Self-confidence is having trust in yourself. So if you tell yourself you're going to do something and then you actually do it, you get that sense of accomplishment, and now you're starting to trust yourself and you're building your self-confidence.
so good,
And that
yeah.
continues to keep going. But if you constantly lie to yourself and don't accomplish anything, like you saying you've been going to the gym. I'm not seeing it, Eddie. But no, I'm kidding.
You see, I come here to do this podcast and I just get bullied the entire time. I've been working hard at the gym.
No, I'm teasing. I'm
gonna post all the unflattering photos I have of Dr. Kulisz on social media.
The yawning, the sneezing.
The yawning, the sneezing, the everything. Yeah. And the unflattering angles.
So let me ask this question. You're very much never met your family, but have heard a lot about your family. I know you have brothers, and your family is very educated, and from a cultural perspective, very similar to the European cultures. You joked that either I was going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure, and we've had other people on the podcast. It was the same thing. They were saying either doctor, lawyer, or engineer. Those are the three choices that they have. So since you pulled away, and your dad's a PhD in that. How do they feel about you not utilizing your education from the way that they're looking at it?
Yeah.
Are they supportive of that?
Oh, they are. My parents, I am very lucky. So supportive. When I came to them with the contemplation, the idea, I was like, I'm thinking about leaving my job and going full into the YouTube content creation thing. I want to give it a shot before I'm too old or regret it. I want to take the risk. without any hesitation, like, absolutely do it. We support you. We think you should. Great decision. My parents have never been judgmental or controlling or like dictating what to do.
Did they feel the same way when you moved back home?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm teasing.
All right, Dr. K. No, they were very excited. I actually, I was talking to my dad and I'm like, Dad, do you realize all 3 of your sons have some form of engineering degree and none of us are using them in our full-time job?
I see that a lot with people, though. I feel
Really?
like even like in medicine, like people will get a degree from a prestigious university, and then they go spring off and do something completely different. And I feel like,
Are you contemplating that?
yeah,
Future
I don't know.
Underwater basket weaving business coming up soon.
Basket weaving. You and I.
Yeah, well, that'll be great. But yeah, I mean, I have a mechanical engineering degree, and I've been working in the marketing space for the last 5-6 years, right? Not using an engineering degree in the engineering way. My younger brother double majored in music performance and comp sci. He did work as a programmer, computer science person, little nerd for a while, but now he's got a master's from Juilliard in music performance, and he's gone full into that percussion performance. The youngest brother is just about to graduate with his master's in biomedical engineering, but he wants to go to law school. He's just taking the LSAT, right? He wants to be a patent lawyer. So none of us actually did that, but you still have that basis there. And I think as long as...
I wonder if like that's the general thing, is that it's underlying IQ between all these people that just like they're so smart in so many different things that they just want to try as many different things. You know what I'm saying?
If your IQ is high, you'd remember to talk closer to the mic. No, I mean, I think it's just the ability to try something and take on a challenge, but realize that if it's not fulfilling you and not really checking the boxes for you, to pivot to something else, right? To be able to constantly learn and take on new opportunities and things like that. Like, engineering is not an easy path. Like, I respect my brothers going through that. Anybody's just like, it's not the easy way out. But then, I don't know, giving a shot, not liking it, and trying something different.
No, but I think what you said earlier is important. It's the education, and nobody, when you learn something, nobody could ever take that away from you.
Yeah,
right.
True.
So engineering you could apply to all different areas, and you have that base, if you will, of an education, and it could springboard you into anything.
Although, now that I think about it, I've talked about this with some friends before. Engineering really just teaches you how to solve, learn, and think. A lot of these higher level technical educations are because like some of these, like I remember thermodynamics, right? We'd have to memorize these silly long equations for fluid all these different things. But in the real world, if you're actually doing it as an engineer, there's probably other tools available. There's MATLAB, there's modeling software. You have access to them. It's just really teaching you how to learn, study things. Same thing with medical school, right? Again, I am the farthest thing from a doctor, obviously.
But being a doctor, it's almost like being a detective.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're trying to find out what's wrong with somebody.
Yeah.
You're asking them all the questions. You're trying to figure out what their problem is and how to solve it.
I almost think like
very
pharmacology
It's
like that.
In a real role as a doctor, do you have to have all 400 antibiotics memorized?
No,
you have resources available, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really just teaching you how to think and structuring that, how to learn, how to study, how to problem solve and think. And yeah, once you have that basis, I'm never going to become not an engineer. You can't take that away from me. I still approach problems in a very analytical fashion, very structured in that way. I have a very much engineering mind still, even though I haven't worked as an engineer for a long time.
It's the things like I feel like with medicine, right? If you have a good understanding of physiology, all the other things build upon that. It's like same thing with like engineering, right? Like you understand how the world works. You have that blueprint on how to approach problems and how to solve them. And I feel like that is like, if you're good with physiology, good with that, and with medicine at least, I feel like you're able to approach everything, and then you compound with pathology, stuff like that. So I think that's a really good point. Like,
not to get deep and very philosophical, but what's life? Life is a series of problems, right?
Yeah.
Vincent Peale said the only people who don't have problems are people in the cemetery, right? And it's true. So every day you have a problem, and what your mindset is to be able to approach that and solve the problem, whether you're coming at it from a medical perspective, a scientific perspective, an engineering perspective. That's an important piece. So I think that's a very valid point, Eddie.
Life is a series of problems. It's a very
you got a lot of problems, Eddie.
I got 99 problems, and I'm with you as 100.
No, but it's good to have problems, right?
Oh yeah, without it, there's no point. There's no meaning. There's nothing.
No, it gives you a challenge. It depends how you look at it. If you look at it as a challenge as opposed to a threat, right? Meaning you have enough resources because it's a challenge response. that's the best way to look at it, and then you could go ahead and solve those problems.
Yeah.
Right?
That's one thing that I feel like since I've been out of school, right? It's kind of like a letdown phase because it's like, all right, everything was so structured before. Now what do I do? Like rotations and stuff, they're all structured. We have to show up here. But it's like outside of the classroom, I feel like I'm kind of like, when I don't have something to do, I'm more anxious because I feel like there's a million things to do. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I felt that way going through the transition of, or like the progression of school. Because like when you're in high school, it's very clear. Do well, do extracurriculars, get a really good GPA, and then apply to a good college. Go to a good college, and it's very structured. Do this, get an internship, X, Y, and Z, graduate, and then get a job. And then you get a job, and it's just like, you're like, now what? Where's the guidance?
Like
Where's the step?
phase.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I've gotten to this point now. Now what am I supposed to do? And it's just kind of like, be free, figure it out as you go. So, but
I don't like that very much.
You don't like that?
It's like a butterfly trying to fly, but I have broken wings.
No, but once you learn, that's the beauty of it. You can go really wherever you want.
Yeah.
It can be stressful. Some people thrive, some people struggle, but ultimately, that's life too, right?
Yeah.
But you have to struggle through the cocoon as a butterfly to be able to actually get your wings.
We are taking
Because
this
if I cut
butterfly
you-
analogy so
No,
far.
no,
That's
because
gonna be
if I
quoted
cut
right
you,
there.
if I cut you out of that cocoon, no, I'm not kidding.
I thought you were about to cut him off of like, you got real panicky.
If I
real
cut
quick.
you out of the
No more
cocoon
struggles.
Yeah.
without allowing you to do it yourself, you know what happens?
You don't fly.
No, your wings never develop.
Yeah, yeah.
So as icky as that sounded, or cliche as that sounded, right? Yeah.
So, oh my
No,
god.
but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, if
So-
you never
so the whole
struggle,
thing
you
is-
never learn.
Struggle is part of success.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to do those
Some
things.
people have more struggles than others, but you know.
No, and the other thing that I think is important, you guys are talking about that, and I think because people get so, not confused, but overwhelmed when they don't have that structured path, like high school, you were saying, or college, or everything else, that when they do get out and get a job, they stick to that job and they stop.
Oh yeah.
They never grow any further.
Yeah.
They spend the same cycle over and over again for 30, 35 years, and then they retire and they look at their life and they didn't do too much,
But
right?
here's the thing. So I've always viewed like complacency as my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Just sitting there stagnant doing it. But something I've realized over time is sometimes I'm a little bit envious of people who do that and can't be fulfilled and happy. Because there's nothing wrong with that. Some people,
Yeah.
they
Oh,
go
yeah.
through school, get their job, and they're happy because they have meaning in their family and their significant other, travel, hobbies, other experiences, and they're happy doing the job. And I'm not going to judge them for that. For me personally, I can't, right? I would lose my mind. But sometimes people like that are happier because they've reached satisfaction, right? They're okay with their lot and they're there. For me, I may never be happy, which is not necessarily a good thing because I always want more. I want a bigger challenge, I want a bigger career, I want a bigger business, I want another car, whatever. And that's almost sometimes a curse because I'll never be actually satisfied. Will I ever be fulfilled, right?
But there's a catch to that, and I know Milet said this, and I think somebody said it prior to that, is blissful dissatisfaction. So you're saying you're never going to be happy because you're constantly chasing. And I don't think that's a good way to look at it. I think it's important for the chase because you're continually moving forward. But what you have to learn is you have to be satisfied and blissful with what you have, but never be content so you're always moving ahead. But people look at it as I'll be happy when, right? Tal Ben-Shahar talks about that, the arrival fallacy, right? I'll be happy when I finish engineering school. I'll be happy when I get a job with Ford. I'll be happy when I do that. Same thing with medical school, right? So you're always kicking it down the line. The important part is that you're actually happy now, but you don't have that content. You're constantly trying to get better. Right? Continuous and never-ending improvement. If you could do that on a daily basis, but don't miss out on the being happy now.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow may not be there.
Yeah.
And we take that for granted. I always use weight as a metaphor because it's easy to think of. It's somebody, who wants to lose, unfortunately, they have to lose 100 pounds. And they lose 95 pounds in the time that it was allotted, and they're pissed off. No, be happy about the 95.
Exactly.
But go chase the other 5. But people don't do that, and then they're constantly miserable.
Yeah.
There's an evolutionary benefit with that. I was listening to one thing with Peter Attia, and he was talking. I don't know if it was the same guy you mentioned, but the idea that before with the hunter gatherers, I think they were saying that you're happy when you catch the animal and you skin it and you eat the food, but then you gotta be right back on it because you have to find another animal because you didn't know when your food was coming. Now everything's at your fingertips, so yeah, it does make you kind of unhappy because I always think people that have everything, right? What do you what do you look forward to? You know, right?
You're like, I just went to Toca Madera and I gathered this dinner. I'm happy now, but wait, I gotta go to the next one. We gotta go to Mastro's now. That's you. So we're still there. You're still a hunter-gatherer of sorts.
But that's because you're always going to the future. You're always looking for the next thing. I'm not saying you don't look for the next thing and keep pushing, but don't miss the moment of what
really
you
happy
have
in the moment.
now.
That's so hard to be.
Yeah.
There's times we've ordered cars. I'm sorry, Eddie. I mean, there's times we've ordered cars, and on the delivery day driving home, you were talking about the next car.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So that is.
Oh, can I tell the story of the Phenom? In the store?
Yeah, that'll
Actually, no, that's a little unrelatable.
that might get some death threats.
No, but for me personally, I had to go through experiencing getting to how did you put it, like the I'll be happy when this happens. I needed to go through that to realize that wasn't the thing, because when I was younger, right, grew up middle class, son of immigrants and so forth, right, I saw the people with the cool cars, and then I met these people in college, and they all had Lamborghinis and R8s and stuff when we were in school, and cool watches and everything. I'm like, I want that. And I made it such a big ingrained part of my personality and self-worth that, like, I will feel like I'm somebody or done something successful when I also make $100,000 a year, when I have a cool sports car, when I have a cool watch. And I had to go through doing that and checking those boxes. It did drive me, right? But then once I got there, I realized, wait a second, this isn't actually making me happy. I had to do it first before I realized, like, wait, no, more money doesn't actually mean anything. More cars doesn't actually make me happier. You had to find more meaning in being in the moment and so forth. Because I was caught up, same thing, right? I buy a cool car and be like, oh, you know, I kind of want that cool. I want a V12 now. I want this and I want this. And it's like, what? You're not even enjoying the cars you have right now. So I had to go through experiencing that, and then I learned the lesson. So now I'm looking back, I'm like, well, that was silly. I don't really care about that and stuff anymore, right? I'm happy with what I have right now. If it comes in the future, sure. I want a V12 at some point. I want a Ferrari, right? I'll get it at some point in the future.
No, I think
it's so great when you look back at it.
Yeah.
So.
No. I think it's very important. Nothing wrong with wanting all of those things, but understanding where they fall in the overall picture, right? Because, again, cliche from the old guy, right? When you're dying, it doesn't matter how many cars you had. It doesn't matter how many homes you have. Yep. It all boils down to what people thought about you and the relationships that you had.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you take the youth, such as you and yourself, Eddie, and say, just worry about that. No, if you want to go ahead and chase and get material things, that's fine. But that shouldn't be number one.
No, absolutely
Number
not,
one should be your health. Number two should be your mental health. Number three, your relationship with others. Then your career. We do it in America. We tend to do it all ass backwards and chase all of those things,
that
right?
Was me, yeah.
But, you know, the important part is you learned it, though.
Yeah.
Through experience.
Yeah.
Everybody here now, it's just Elia behind the camera. He's focusing, fasting, working out, right? You've been working out a lot more. You lost all that weight. I've been thinking about now, like, be working out more now that I have more time from school, and you've been working out. And that's the most telling thing. Everybody here, what is the most important thing? Your physical health over anything else. We realize that now. You went through it.
Oh, last year was
bad
for me.
Yeah.
I mean, because all I was doing was working, traveling for work, and eating, and not taking care of myself because I had no time.
Your F1, your Vegas
oh
thing.
My gosh. I mean, it was an amazing experience, but I was not happy. I was not feeling healthy. It was just not good. So, like, this year, going into this year, I was like, you know what? I'm quitting drinking. I'm toning down my caffeine intake, which you should probably try too, and just eating healthy and getting back into shape, right? Like lowering the fats. Like, I've never been susceptible to like sugars and like carbs and stuff like that, but oh my God, you put a steak in front of me, I will eat 7 of them. If I'm hungry, I go to the restaurant, I will order the most expensive entree stuff for the second most expensive entree in the entire appetizer list.
Well, we barely dragged you out of that Brazilian steakhouse in Arizona.
I'm a sucker for Brazilian steakhouse.
But anyways. Chow, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, when we went in Scottsdale, right?
Yeah. In Scottsdale.
I'm actually going on Wednesday.
Yeah, see, there you're already writing it. Is that in the Google Calendar?
No, I've been much more cognizant of it, being healthy, eating, cooking my own meals, portion control, getting back into shape, going to the gym, working out.
You feel so good when we were talking about that. How you feel just even on the days you don't want to go, you feel so much better, and that's like working that into your schedule. I think is so important.
Yeah. No, and I think we talked about this. I know I did something on Instagram on this. Is that we think we feel good because this becomes our new normal. But when we actually step out of our current state and exercise and eat properly, we don't realize how good we actually can feel.
It was with Todd.
Right?
Remember?
Yeah,
You were talking,
yes. I had a partner that actually had an MI and did fine, but had a heart attack. And then
What's an MI?
a heart attack.
Oh, okay.
And then the next day I came to visit him in the hospital after they did a procedure. And he said, I says, how you feeling? He goes, I didn't realize how shitty I felt till I felt great.
Oh.
And I think that's what happens to us.
Mm-hmm.
We set ourselves up, whether it's the stress of work, whether it's what we're eating, whether it's lack of exercise, and we think we feel pretty good, or we think our knees are supposed to hurt, or our back is supposed to. In reality, that's not true.
Yeah.
And once we actually start taking care of ourselves, we start realizing, hey, man, I'm feeling better than I ever thought I could, right? So I think that's a key to be able to push that stuff through.
Yeah.
So that's good. So your family's supportive. I think that's
100%.
Great.
Yeah.
And they probably have some level of security in the sense that you were so driven when you were in school. You actually were doing the YouTube already, so you were successful. As opposed to that may be a little easier for them. They've seen how successful you were in the past and how successful you are now, and now they're supportive.
I know my parents ultimately, they've said it to me before. It's just like, do whatever you want as long as you're happy. They're always like, me and my brothers, like, as long as you're happy, that's what's most important. The actual amount of money you make, the income, the whatever, they're not as worried about that. As long as we can make ends meet and you know where your next meal is coming from, they're like, just do something that makes you happy, right? Like, younger brother went into music performance. That's not necessarily the most lucrative thing, right? A lot of people be like, whoa, why is he not focusing? He went to computer science. That technically would pay him way more, but he wasn't passionate about it. So they always support that. Same thing with me, right? When I wanted to leave engineering, they're like, sure. Okay, you don't like it? They knew. I think at one point they said, like, yeah, you probably were never going to stay as an engineer. They just wanted me to go through that, try it, right? My personality isn't fit to be the typical engineer. It's just not something that I would have stuck with long term no matter what. And my parents know me actually they do know me very well. They are my parents, so they definitely saw that.
Yeah. It's actually interesting because obviously all this stuff new to me, Instagram, and we've joked. I mean, you've helped me with a lot of stuff, and obviously the podcast is brand new too. But one thing that I'm learning is it's work. It's a different kind of work. But in order to connect with the people that follow you, and my passion is really trying to help people with the things that I failed in or things that I know now, right? So kind of share, because a lot of, I think the people that watch your videos, Eddie, or watch other YouTubers or Instagrammers, whatever it is, right? They think it's easy and it's glamorous. And in reality, you kind of touched on this. You're doing 12-hour, 15-hour days. Kind of explain to people what it's like to actually do that it's not, just you point a camera for 10 minutes and then you're sitting by the pool.
Yeah. The one thing I always try to remind people is social media, whatever format, whether Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, is a carefully curated highlight reel. You're putting out the best of the best. When you see somebody post something in their story, they're going to want to make it look glamorous and cool. So everything you see is just the tip of the iceberg. That's the really cool stuff. YouTube specifically is, in my opinion, still one of the most high production social media platforms out there. And it's also one of the most authentic because you can't fake it as easily because so much goes into it, right? So if you look at a 15-minute long video, it's not 15 minutes of filming. It could be an hour of filming of the camera rolling, right? And just to get to that step of actually doing the filming, there could have been another hour plus of prep work, planning, strategizing, thinking about what kind of video is going to be set up, logistics, and so forth. And then once that part is done, you're only halfway through. You still have to do the post-processing, right? You take all the camera, the footage, you put it on your computer, whatever you're editing it on, and then you got to post-process it. Some videos take more effort than others. My reviews are definitely higher effort than a vlog. A vlog, right, when we go out, we've done vlogs before, is single camera.
Disasters.
You stitch it, it's a slow controlled disaster. You stitch it all together, add some music, some transition effects, you're good to go. It's kind of linear in that way. But like when I review a car, whether it's a press car, a car from a friend, one of your cars or something like that, you've seen it. There's B-roll shots, right? Get all the beauty shots. stitch it together for a cool little cinematic sizzle reel. And then you have the intro of me talking about it, introducing the car, talking about the powertrain, exterior details. You got to overlay the detail shots. And then we're going to the driving part, right? Now I got 3 GoPros set up with the different audio sources. Going to make a pass through that to make sure the actual dialogue is the way we want it, stitched together, tell the story, and then overlaying different angles. And then you're adding in the final pass of detail shots of like, oh yeah, I mentioned this thing in the engine bay. Well, I better show that, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden, like, while it's a 20-minute long video, it probably took 8 times as long to edit and put it all together. And then you're still not done. Right. Then you have to get around uploading, export, upload, make sure your settings are right, make the thumbnail, figure out the title, the description, the tags, in-stream ads on YouTube, right? Placing the ads on strategic places. You don't want to just scatter them randomly. Then you got to schedule it, figure out when it's being posted, cross-post it across your different platforms, prep stuff on Instagram, on Facebook to match it, write up all these different things. So there's a lot that goes into creating that kind of content. Yeah. And then you have to keep going. In order to stay relevant on social media, you have to constantly be creating new stuff. This balance is probably, 10% legacy, older bulk, your library of stuff, and 90% new stuff. So if you stop and get stagnant and you're not constantly uploading, your platforms will just flatline and start dropping, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a constant cycle of never-ending, ultimately work, right? To create that content, connect your audience. And in today's day and age, it's getting even more complicated. I sometimes bemoan the fact that it's so much more difficult now in 2 ways. One, the platforms are much more saturated. So many more people are YouTubers or content creators, right? It's become much more popular. Years ago, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when I was first doing it, if you like tell somebody, yeah, I'm a YouTuber, they'd be like, you're a what? That's not a real job. Right. Go get a real job, kid, right? But it was much more sparse. There were less. Now it's much more established. Influencer and whatever is much more.
Look at any moron.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We've reached peak. It's all downhill from here now. What's Dr. Kulisz? What's Dr. Kulish? Is Instagram famous? We are. Anyway, no, you're doing fantastic, Dr. K. I'm very proud of you. There's a lot more competition out there, which is a good thing overall. There's more to consume. It's become more mature. And then the other aspect is so many more platforms. We were just talking earlier. Instagram's been around for like 14 years. YouTube's been around for 20 years now.
Instagram around was 2010, YouTube was 2005, and TikTok was 2016.
2005. I've never heard somebody call it 20. Anyways.
2005.
But
for you engineers in the room, so you can understand.
But like, in the past, right, I filmed landscape video for YouTube and maybe take a couple pictures for Instagram. Good to go. Now you have vertical video for Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. You got to do stories for all of those platforms. YouTube allows you to post in a community now. You can do polls. You can do stories too. You got to still do the landscape stuff. And then you got to prep for other platforms. And there's so many different platforms and formats of content available now. So it's cool in that you can find your niche and you have more flexibility, right? Like sometimes if I have a thing that I'm doing, I'm like, this will be just Instagram or this will just be YouTube. So you can kind of play around with that. Or some people specialize. I know some people who they're just on TikTok. They just do short form, vertical stuff. They have no idea how to do long form YouTube. They don't want to. They don't want to put in the effort for that. They like the short 60-second vertical stuff. Cool. Good for you, right? So it's both, again, like cool because it gives you more options and flexibility. But also if you're trying to do all of it, you're like, holy crap, there are so many different things to cover. So it's evolved a lot.
Yeah, and not only that, that's the prep work, but somebody like yourself who is in the automotive realm, right? You travel a lot. You just came back from California. You go out to Vegas. You're constantly going to Miami. So how much do you travel in a year?
Oh, I don't even know. Last year was really crazy because with the full-time job at HP Tuners, I had a lot of travel there, and then I tack on a lot of the YouTube stuff with media drives for press manufacturers or personal trips. Last year, I was probably home 1 to 2 weeks per month max. So I was on the road between 2 to 3 weeks a month on average. Yeah. I have so many American Airlines frequent flyer miles. I have top-tier status on them, and that was cool. I have no regrets on the experience, but holy crap, did that get exhausting, living out of a suitcase. And again, I'm not complaining. It was a really, really amazing experience, and I made the decision to do I could have said no to half the trips, right? So I'm not complaining, but what you don't see, you see the cool highlight reel. I'm flying to Dubai and flying to London and doing this. I'm in Miami, right? What you don't see is you're never home, the long hours, the jet lag, the amount of time spent just like in an airport and sitting in an uncomfortable seat or whatever, because I'm not always flying first class. I'm not, that type of thing. It really is draining. Last year there was one sprint that kind of like just took the last bit of energy I had out of me. I went to Montana for 3 days, from there straight to Dubai and Abu Dhabi for a week, from Dubai straight to Tokyo for a week, Tokyo straight to Vegas for a week for a trade show where you're on your feet for like 8 to 10 hours a day talking nonstop. And then I got to go home for 5 days, and I turned right around and went back to Vegas again for an executive strategy session and the Formula One race. Those were all really cool things, right? But when you stack it all together, holy crap. I was home
jet
for
lag would be insane.
Oh my gosh, my body didn't know what time the bounce from US to the Middle East to China to Asia, Japan, and then back. My body didn't know what time it was, right?
Yeah.
I got sick at the end of that. I was not doing well. And you're still doing work the whole time, answering emails. I was trying to get videos up, right, putting stuff together, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
No, and it's not. I didn't bring that up to deter people, but I don't want them to think that everything, just like you said, is just glamorous. So it actually is. It's a very rigorous job.
Yeah.
It's very time consuming. You have to be creative. You're constantly working. And like we said, that blend, that work-life integration, sometimes it's hard to shut off. So
when you have something like that, there is no work-life balance or work-life integration. It's just only work, and there's sacrifices there. I had essentially really no social life. My social life was like, we'd hang out occasionally. That's when I get to like unwind
if
and
I'm
relax.
in your social life,
Yeah.
it's downhill.
But I had no relationship and no chance of even finding a relationship, right? There's no point. I wasn't home to see my parents. I couldn't go back and visit them. I was barely keeping up with any friends, right? You're just only doing that, and there's a sacrifice there. I have friends who have worked that type of thing. One of my friends, he's got top tier Marriott, like Ambassador, Diamond, Platinum, Elite, whatever. But he stayed in a hotel room 300 nights out of the 365 nights
there
of the
you
year.
go, yeah.
And like that looks amazing because anytime he goes to a hotel, he gets upgraded to the top suite. You're like, holy crap, that looks awesome, right? When we fly, we get upgraded to business class or first or whatever. You go to lounge access, but what you don't realize is what that takes, right? You're away from your family. You don't see them. You're never home. So like, there's that sacrifice there, and I don't think people show that enough, right? They just show the cool, glamorous parts because that's what's cool to share.
It reminds me, right? When you go ahead and you figure out what you want, and in order to be successful, you have to figure out what the price of success is going to be.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about is all of the things behind the scenes that you're paying, right? That's the price of your success, right?
So in your career, you obviously worked many, many hours, ER physician, and then as a CMO, right? Those were long, strenuous hours. Looking back, do you regret any of it? Do you regret the trade-offs, the sacrifices for the success that you had?
No, I think with medicine, it switches a little bit, right? Because you do a lot in the beginning. You preload a lot of stuff, obviously medical school, right? So you have all of that work then, and then residency, and then you become an attending. But, you know, it was me and 3 other guys that were like my brothers that started an ER group. And there was a lot of sacrifice there because there was only 4 of us when we first started covering an ER. And for those of you who don't know, ER has somebody there 24/7. There's 8,760 hours in a year. So you split that by 4. You're there all the time. So you're there days, you're there nights, you're there weekends. I enjoyed that a lot. Do I regret missing a lot of the things with my son growing up? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you look back, you could see how the balance has to be there. Now, the important part is that the balance can't always be there. You said something that caught my ear where you said, when I was going to Tokyo and to Dubai and doing all those things, well, you had to do that for your job. Sometimes that work piece is going to really be off balance with your life piece, right? And you kind of, eventually you might have more of the life piece than the other piece. So I'm not saying that to everybody out there that, everything has to be balanced. 8 hours of work, 8 hours
No,
of...
you can't.
No, sometimes you have to shift it. The key is to make sure that you're not doing that all the time. I know some docs that all they do is medicine.
Yeah.
And they see their kids when they're off on vacation once 1 week or 2 weeks out of the entire year. That's not the way to do it either, right? So you do have to find something there. But it's sacrifice.
Yeah.
Anything that you want. It's really easy. You set your goal, you figure out what you have to pay, and if you're willing to pay the price, you'll be successful.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people don't see what that price is, right?
That reminds me. I remember really early on, I got to visit some of the executive offices at Ford. And like went one of these guys' office, he was a VP of something at a Fortune 500 company, right? And he had a shower and like a full suite and like a couch that folded into a futon in his office. Right. And me being a little like fresh out of college kid, like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. This badass top executive has like a whole essentially suite in his office. And then somebody was like, that's actually like a curse.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, the company owns him. He has to be there. If there's a shower and a bed in your office, that means he has to sleep there sometimes, not go home to his family after the workday. At any moment, if the company needs him as an executive, they can call him and he's got to go. Right, so he doesn't have that freedom. His life isn't his own anymore. Yeah. So it's like that really opened my eyes. Like, oh wow, it may look like amazing. Like this guy's the VP at this big company or president at C-level, whatever. Holy crap, does that come with a serious cost?
Yeah. No, exactly. And look at you're in medical school now. You're going to do a residency. Resident. What does that mean? The reason it's called resident is because you lived in the friggin'
hours
hospital.
Are insane. One of my friends, her husband was just down in Kentucky hanging out with them, neurosurgery resident right now. I cannot even remotely fathom how they operate through those hours. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
The residency started at Johns Hopkins, and the program director was on cocaine. So he said that the people would live in the hospital and they would do cocaine, so they would stay up for crazy hours.
Well, that sounds healthy.
Yeah, and now that didn't actually.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's been laws that have been reformed, but a lot of people, I always look online. People are like, a lot of the places don't actually follow like the rules. So there's other things, like the transit time and stuff.
Yeah.
So and then you got to look at it. Is that really healthy? Is that safe?
No, it's funny what you said about Ford, because another company that did a lot of that, I believe, and this isn't a slam to the company, was Google. So Google, they had everything there.
Yep.
Sporting events, ping pong tables, food, cafeteria.
Yeah.
Child care, cleaners, movie theaters. I may be embellishing some of this, but you're right. That means they live there.
That's the thing with I know in a lot of Japanese companies did that, where they built entire like villages essentially for their employees to live there. Everything is full service, laundry services, dining, everything, because they worked it out in a pure numbers way. The more time your employees spend there, the more productivity you get out of them. They don't waste time commuting back and forth. Yeah. But then when you're doing something like that, you're literally viewing employees as just like a number in a spreadsheet. Yeah, they're just labor, and that's kind of...
Well, but that's unfortunately when you look at business, sometimes that's how people look at things.
Yeah.
And then you get into what we were talking about before. You end up getting burnt out.
Yeah, burnout. Oh, burnout. Burnout. I learned a lot about burnout working with you on the focus model, putting together stuff for Focus and LMG and so forth. Right. So that was really cool. Thank you, because that was a cool experience, because my entire career, I've been a car person, right? So I focused on car stuff, dabbled in some like real estate marketing and content creation there, but obviously nothing in the medical space. So learning these terms from your dad, like if you ask me like CME and what are these things, I'm like, I have no idea what those acronyms are, and I learned a lot. And also the focus model, things like that, burnout. Right. And it allowed me to start identifying, I'm going through burnout because of X, Y, and Z, because of loss of this or because of whatever in my job. And yeah, that was really, really cool.
Yeah, that's good. And it seems like that was part of your deal as well, in the sense that when you were doing all those things, the stress built up to the point where you had to kind of check yourself and say, hey, am I going through burnout or am I not? And rebalance some of the things.
Deep through burnout. And it's not that I wasn't aware. I knew it, and I was kind of just still stubbornly going headfirst into it. My boss, Andrew, at the time, who became a very, very good friend of mine, every time we had a one-on-one, he'd be like, mate, I'm worried about you. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you're burning the candle from both ends. I'm worried. You're tired all the time. You're working way too many hours. You're way too stressed, putting too much pressure on yourself at both the full-time job, and also he knew everything I was doing with my YouTube, my own side business stuff. And I acknowledge, I'd be like, I'll be fine, right? I'll just drink some more coffee. I'll get through it. I got to do both because I want to buy another car.
Right.
And eventually, no matter what, no matter how stubborn you are, no matter how many nitro cold brews you have, no matter what you think you can do,
there's
right?
a limit. Right?
There is a limit.
I know from personal experience.
You hit that wall and you just can't continue anymore. And then it starts, the insidiousness of burnout comes, where the joy gets sucked away from it, and the fun, and you're just irritable and stressed, and like, that's not a way to live, right? Mm-hmm. It became that way for me, where I'm just like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. I'm making more money than I ever thought I was going to be making. I had the coolest cars in the world. I was getting all these amazing experiences. I'm like, I'm not actually that happy. Yeah. I don't drive my cars ever. I had 3 of my personal dream cars, and like I drove one of them, like the Shelby 350R. I got driven 500 miles in a whole year.
Yeah, I remember you
Like,
telling me. It's like,
yeah, well, what's the point, right?
Should have given it to Michael. It would have come back with 30,000
That's true. That's
miles.
true. Very low mileage car. It would have, millions of miles on it. Would have driven across the country.
Yeah.
I bought the lowest mileage E92 M3 in the country, and I drove it across the country. What? Why? Why did you? Anyways, so yeah, eventually you get to that point. You're like, what? This is not it. And that's what led me to really sit down and think. It's like, hey, is this what I want to do with my life and career? Do I want to keep just working these crazy hours and doing this stuff and not really having enjoyment or satisfaction anymore out of it? And I decided, no, I want to change. So I took the risk, calculated risk, a lot of thinking. I remember I talked to you about it, definitely talked to you, a bunch of friends, family, and ended up, leaving a very, very amazing job. But it was the right choice to make. Yeah.
And now you have one car, an amazing girlfriend, and a new whole life, and you're like, wow, this is so much better than having 3 cars going nonstop.
Yeah.
With no family, no girlfriend.
Yeah.
So it does everything. I feel like once you kind of take a step back.
Don't push the girlfriend. We don't know how long.
Oh, come on. No, she's amazing. You've talked to her.
I didn't that one out. Elliot.
Oh gosh. No, it's a whole different perspective for sure.
Yeah.
Do I miss some of the Formula 1 races were amazing.
Yeah.
Attending F1 races. I have a 2-second cameo on Drive to Survive on Netflix.
I saw that.
I did not realize it. I hadn't started watching the new season yet, and I had like a dozen people message me because, oh my god, I just saw you on Drive to Survive. I was like, wait, what? So I show up randomly on Netflix at one of the races. That was an amazing experience. And now I want to go back. I absolutely want to find my way back to be able to attend Formula 1 races. It's the only sport I care about. Absolutely obsessed watching all the coverage, the pre-race stuff, the post-race stuff, the analysis, the engineering breakdowns. So it was cool. I got some amazing experiences, but decided the cost wasn't worth bearing at that time. I'm trying to find a different balance.
Right.
And the best part of it is I can always go back, right? Like we have flexibility. I have flexibility in my life and career, right? I could try this out. It doesn't work, or maybe it works really well and I pivot, go for something else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's so many options as long as you're willing to take risks.
No, I think that's extremely important, is to understand that you do have the ability to pivot. Nothing is permanent, right? And you could do things that, like you said, you would have never thought that you'd be doing the things that you're doing now when you were
absolutely
going
not.
for engineering school.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be sitting at Ford still working on the Mustang engine,
Yeah.
right? It just doesn't work like that.
I wanted to be,
sometimes.
my dream job was actually, at first I wanted to be a Lego master builder. Then I realized the guys who design all the Lego sets and build the giant Lego things for Legoland. I love Legos. Then I realized there's 12 of them, and I was like, okay, maybe not that. I was going to be a chief engineer. And my dream school is MIT. I remember being so upset that I did not get into MIT. It was my dream school. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. How could I not get into MIT? That's everything I structured my high school career to get into. I aced the test, the top tier. I demolished all of my classes, whatever, right? But now looking back, I'm like, oh, well, it's good that never happened. I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it, right? So
Yeah, everything that you experience kind of gets you to the point of where you are today, right?
So experiencing
you know,
Dr. Kulisz in my life has gotten me to the point I am today.
That's right.
Life lessons.
Think of
All
how
the-
much smarter you are now.
I
I didn't have much to work with, Eddie. You already said you didn't get into MIT. Okay, that was pre-me.
Oh yeah,
right.
yeah,
so now
yeah,
look how
yeah.
you're flourishing.
Little words of wisdom from Dr. K just sprinkled in there on a daily basis will make you.
So with burnout, what do you think the most important change you made? Was it the job change, or was it something that you do yourself personally on a daily basis? Do you find yourself kind of stepping back and looking at things differently? Is it getting into the exercise more, watching the diet? What do you think helped you the most?
Exercise has helped, but I haven't solved it per se. Still battle burnout. I was talking to my girlfriend. She goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm really spent," because when I just went for 10 days in California, all I did for 10 days straight, I was staying there at a friend's house by myself, right, was film, edit videos, go to the gym, eat, and sleep.
Yeah.
So by the time the last Saturday rolled around, I went out to film, and it took me like 13 takes to do an intro, which is very uncharacteristic of me. And I know if I get to that point, I'm a little bit burnt out. My brain just is not firing on all cylinders. There's only a couple cylinders in there, not really strong, I know anyways already. But like I'm just like...
The walnut.
Yeah, the little hamsters running around, and they're like, oh my God. But I was definitely I burnt myself out again, right? I just went too much, and I didn't take not a break, right? There was no weekend for me because I was there by myself.
And that's the catch.
Yeah.
People don't realize that it's actually stress plus rest equals success. You don't have that rest piece.
Yeah.
You have to rest. So you were there for 10 days,
Yeah.
right? So if on the 5th day you took a little bit of a rest,
Exactly.
you would have had more to be able to carry out.
Correct.
More in the tank to be able to carry out what you needed on the last 5. I used to
Yeah.
tell them that all the time with tests.
Oh, yeah.
You got to sleep.
Yeah, you can't be
don't
studying
sleep.
24/7.
You're not even
Your
putting
brain
things
won't
into your
retain
memory.
anything.
You're
Yeah, it's going in and going right out.
It's the same thing, and people think, I'm just going to keep pushing through and keep pushing
Yeah.
through and keep pushing through. And a lot of times you take that little bit of rest, you become so much more productive on the
Yeah.
back end.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, to like the burnout thing, I haven't fully addressed. It's gotten better because I've reduced some of the burden of having a full-time job, right? So now it's just the YouTube content creation thing, but I'm still working probably the same number of hours, but the only slight change is I've been able to have more flexibility of when I do it, and I can definitely structure in going to the gym. I've been very disciplined about going to the gym 5 to 6 days a week, even if it's just going there for some cardio to be active, right? Just having that routine. Trying to read a little bit more, take time off. I guess calling my girlfriend, talking to her, or hang out with her. Those are probably the big 3 things that have been helping, but definitely haven't like solved it whatsoever.
Yeah,
and I don't think I ever will.
Well, I think you could decrease it. Do
Yes.
you always have the ability for it to come back? Yeah, so a lot of people think they take a vacation and they're going to come back and
Oh,
their
no,
burnout
no.
is going to be better.
Oh yeah.
No, well, no, it can be worse, right? If you have to catch up on
Yeah.
everything. But the whole thing is, you might feel better a little bit, but you're coming back into the same environment. Now you're actually creating your environment. So as an entrepreneur, all the things that we talked about earlier in the show about the accountability, all those things you're doing to yourself, right? So when you actually look at the causes of burnout, one of them being autonomy, you've got full autonomy.
Yep.
So that shouldn't be a problem. But workload's a problem. So how do you structure then, in terms of your company and what you do as Eddie X, to be able to have that balance, like we said, to have a little bit of a break?
That's a learning
And
process.
It's a learning process, and I think the way to address that is going to be patience, which is terrible for me because I am not patient whatsoever. We've talked about this before.
That's why you guys
delayed
are friends.
gratification.
Yeah.
I'm atrocious at it. I see something I want it tomorrow. I see a result I want it immediately, right? Delayed gratification is no good for me. And if I need to keep reminding myself to take a step back, be like, all right, these videos and the growth and the audience and everything will take time, and I can't rush it. I can't be posting 14 videos a week. I can't even barely keep up with 5 videos a week, right? Like, I need to just like let the process run its course. Otherwise, I will end up burning myself out, and I'm back at square one. And what was the point?
And
What was the whole point?
delayed gratification is self-discipline.
It sucks though.
So yeah, well they did this study a long time ago. A gentleman by the name of Michelle. They did the study with
by the name of Michelle.
he was a psychologist. Yeah, his last name was Michelle.
Oh, okay.
And
Not me.
Not judging.
No, not Michelle to my left here. Anyway, they gave. I'm sure you heard of it. The marshmallow test. They gave kids a marshmallow.
Oh yeah.
So they put a bunch of 4 or 5 year olds in a room.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just paraphrase.
But it was last week.
Yeah, I'm going to paraphrase, right? And they gave him the marshmallow, and they says, hey, listen, I'm going to leave the room. If you don't eat the marshmallow, when I come back, I will give you another marshmallow. Some kids did all kinds of things to distract themselves. They were smelling the marshmallow, clever in their eyes. Some kids ate it, right? And then they followed the kids through their schooling and through adulthood. And those that were able to delay their gratification
Did better.
in school, did better in jobs, did better in everything. And I told Michael, if he was part of that test, he not only would have eaten his marshmallow, he would have beat the hell out of the kid next to him on the left and the right and ate their marshmallows
Become the marshmallow
too.
kingpin. Yeah. So what kind of things can you do to train yourself to be better at delayed gratification?
Practice. So be able to actually, number one, we said it's self-discipline.
Yeah.
So if you're at peak physical performance, right, and good exercise, good sleep. Lack of sleep causes you to make poor decisions,
More
right?
impulsive and
So it's things of that nature. Practice delayed gratification. Put a bowl of candy that you like and just keep walking by it,
Not
right? And
possible
learn
for us.
that,
I don't
right?
care about candy.
So yeah.
Put a Japanese A5 Wagyu on a plate, like, oh.
So have Angel, your girlfriend, put it on a string, and each time you come by, she pulls the steak away from you. But
She'll get a kick out of that one. Yeah.
a lot of the stuff is practice.
That's
Anything that you do is practice, and to be able to understand. Because what's good for you in the moment, right? What feels good in the moment is usually bad for you long term. The sacrifice that you do now is good for you long term, right?
If it has a
We do
long
that.
shelf life, it decreases your life, right? You always say that too, right? It's
Right,
like,
that's for food.
yeah, I know that's what I'm saying, but yeah, it's like that. I always love that phrase because it's true, right? It's like if you're
If
putting
you eat Twinkies, you could have a Twinkie from 1962. You could eat it. I don't think you'll get sick. It's all synthetic, right?
Yeah, I'm
So
trying.
if it's got a long
There's all these
shelf
studies
life,
now, ultra processed food and how bad it is. So I've been.
microplastics. What do I always tell you?
Oh, it's too late, dude. It's too late.
too
Yeah,
late.
as you're finishing your nitro cold brew from Starbucks in a plastic cup.
Yeah.
We're done with that. But ultra processed food, I've been really trying to avoid all of that. If I grew up cooking like my mom cooked everything from scratch. Nothing canned, nothing preserved was in the house, right?
Awesome.
Nothing at all. It was always fresh fruits, vegetables, meat, fish,
Right.
whatever, right? Always cooked straight from scratch. And that's what I've been trying to do now. It's just
It's so much more fun too. It's like
I
when
love
when
cooking.
you cook, it's fun.
Yeah. Have I made you dumplings before?
No,
gotta
every
make
time
you
I see you on your store, I
gotta make you dumplings
We need to do
sometime.
that.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, we went to that one restaurant. That was phenomenal. That was a restaurant.
What do you call it?
I'm not calling it.
Yeah, what do you call it, Dr. K?
I'm not calling
It's
it
a
on
very
camera.
famous soup dumpling place. You went there.
Oh,
the
I
Aria.
know. Dim Tai Fung.
Ding Tai Fung, yeah.
Yeah,
Your dad butchers it,
used
says
to-
something very offensive every
yeah,
single
very
time.
offensive. So I decided not to.
My dad cannot pronounce that, but
Yeah, that's my self-discipline. I'm gonna practice that.
Canceled immediately.
yeah. I guess we actually Flana and I went there a couple weeks ago.
There's a better place off the strip. There's a really
saw
good like
your photo you
Chinatown,
sent
the
me, yep.
Shanghai dumplings. Oh, so good.
Is it only in Vegas?
Wait, what do you mean?
The-
This
the-
other one? Yeah, I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's specifically in Vegas out there. Yeah.
Do you like Vegas?
I am so tired of Vegas because of my job, and I've like last year I think I went to Vegas 4 times and spent a cumulative 3.5 weeks there. That's too much time in Vegas, right?
A
And it's
day
just-
is enough.
It's like 2 to 3 nights I think for fun is
Yeah.
enough because like the sights are nice and like there's a lot of really good foods. The only thing I look for going to Vegas is the food. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's
Nothing else.
amazing.
Nothing else do I care about there. So yeah, Vegas is
It's a
must
good area too of like self-discipline, right? Like when
Oh,
you
yeah.
walk past, like there's so many slots. There's the blackjack.
Oh, see, I
it's
don't
like-
gamble. I don't even bring money with me there. Money is too hard to earn to waste it gambling.
Yeah,
I don't even bring my debit card. I have no cash. Last time we were there, I see it was like, you want to sit down there?
I don't know.
play
Every
blackjack?"
time we go with Eddie, he has no money. You know that? He's like, oh yeah, I left my money. It's in the bank. No, I mean, what the heck? I mean, what's going on? I'm understanding this now, Eddie. So one of the things that we always talk about is success, and obviously you as a young person, you're 30 years old. I would consider you
Not yet. Still 29.
going to be 30.
I'm avoiding my 30s like the plague.
But you have been successful, and I think you're going to be much more successful in the future. What are some of the habits for the people that are watching? Because one of the things that we do is self-development, and we talk about people that are successful for whatever that definition is. It doesn't have to be financial. It could be in relationships. It could be in your job. It could be in happiness. What do you think your number one habit is that is driving your success?
Ooh, number 1. I had
Number
3.
one.
I had 3 that came to mind.
Well, go ahead. Give us all 3, and then you could rank
Well,
them.
I think the number 1 would have to say would be my ridiculous and often ridiculed, like Google Calendar discipline. My time structuring. Like essentially every day, if I'm being productive that day, from the moment I wake up, I have hour blocks set up on you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing this. I have a to-do list, right? And I kind of extrapolate out because these 3 things are the highest priority. I'm going to do these today. There's always some flexibility. You got to be able to move some stuff around, but I had to do that in order to handle how much I put on my own plate. From a full-time job standpoint, it was easier to block that out, right? You work on 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever it is, done work day. But then after that, you have X number of hours before you go to sleep. What are you going to do with that time? What are the things I'm going to do? And I was just ridiculously over the top with putting things on there. Again, down to the level of detail of I'm going to shower from this time to this time, and then from this time to this time, I'm going to clean up the kitchen, do a little bit of chores around the house, and then I'm going to go upstairs and be working on this. I'm going to be editing videos, I'm going to schedule videos, I'm going to answer emails for an hour. Okay, cool. That's the rest of my night. That's the only way I was able to stay so on track of all the things that I did. And over time, you start developing that habit of just following that kind of structure. And then the amount of stuff you can get done in a day is unbelievable. Yeah. People often complain, oh, there's no time, whatever. I'm like, if you start structuring out that way, and you're not wasting 15 minutes here, I'm not wasting 15 minutes here, I'm not wasting 30 minutes scrolling on my phone, right. All of a sudden you free up another 3-4 hours in the evening, and you can go to the gym, you can do X, Y, and Z, you can do all these different things. So I think that's one of the big ones. Another habit for being successful is being always willing to learn, right? Never stop learning. If you have the arrogance thinking you're the best at something, you're done. You're there's no hope for you anymore, right? You might be, but that mentality is not going to serve you well. So I'm always trying to learn from friends, mentors. Dr. Kulisz, you're an example most of the time. But no, in all seriousness, having mentors is such an amazing experience, right? People that you can trust, that have your interests at heart, and they genuinely want to see you do well. Learning from them, reading, podcasts, videos, all of this type of stuff, right? So nonstop, voracious appetite on wanting to learn more. That's how I became a director of marketing. When I first started, there was a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, wait a second, I'm an engineer. I don't have a marketing degree. I haven't managed a big team before. Are you really putting me in this role? But over the course of my time, I learned everything I needed to do. How to manage a team, how to grow a team, how to have difficult conversations, how to do strategy, how to structure things, run meetings, and so forth, right? So never stop learning.
It's actually interesting, and I can't remember where I read this, so I apologize. This does not come from me. But we always, what you're telling yourself in your head is, I already know that, change it to what can I learn from that. And the other one is that's not going to help me. Change that. How can it help me? If you come with that curiosity to each of the things, that's exactly what you're talking about. You then start learning, and you continue to get better. You know.
Yeah, those two be big ones.
And the last one, besides hanging out with us, what would the third one be?
I forgot. I'm running on 3 hours of sleep here. What was it?
And sleep is important.
Sleep is important.
Did you miss our podcast on sleep?
I was listening
with
to
Dr. Mork.
Yeah, I was busy. I was flying. I was busy trying to fly from California here to see you, sir. The one thing I always think about is like, if it's a kind of a cheesy saying, but like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Love that phrase.
And that one is that it is really valuable, right? Like
I've been in the wrong room for the last 3 hours now. So
no, I'm teasing. So funny.
Oh, you like that?
But also piggybacking sort of off of that is who you surround yourself with, who you talk to, and spend your time with is so critical, right? Yeah. You have to be really disciplined in deciding who to allocate time for. That sounds harsh, but like I take the example to the max extreme, right? If your 5 best friends are millionaires, you're probably gonna end up a millionaire, most likely not, because that's the type of conversations that are happening, the business opportunities, the learnings, and so forth. So that will likely happen. If your 5 best friends are drug addicts, you will likely possibly become a drug addict, right? It's just that sounds like an uncouth example.
I think that's true, but I looked it up, and somebody said that it was science debunked that.
Really?
Yeah,
they could debunk. Yeah.
You can debunk anything. Science can make anything happen, dude.
Yeah, no. I think just take it from a common sense perspective. If you surround yourself, just like you're saying, Eddie, with somebody who goes to all your friends go to the gym on Friday. You're going to go to the gym and you're going to work out. If all of your friends are bowlers, nothing wrong with bowling, but if all your friends are bowlers and Friday night is pizza and beer, you're going to do pizza and beer. So where do you end up being better, right? So I think what may have gotten debunked was how close your finances, your physicality are.
Too, but I thought I read that.
But that's something I always like. I relate like most of my close friends are older, actually, right? I actually don't have tons of friends that are you're one of the rare ones that are kind of closer to our age. Most of them were established in their careers, business owners, doctors, lawyers. Like 2 of my best friends, one is he owns a couple pharmacies, another one is a dentist. And it's just the kind of people that the conversations flowed with better. I learned so much from them. I like to think I taught them some things too.
Do you learn a lot from me?
what not to do.
A lot of mistakes.
But
failure is part of success.
oh, there we go. We got a walking book on failure. I'm the other half of the book. Don't worry. We're like 2 peas in a pod. Not a very good pod. Anyways, but yeah, being very deliberate in who you surround yourself with, and if somebody is negative, toxic, detracting from your goals, trying to put you down, or just not of that same mindset and attitude, you got to be just disciplined and just cut them out, because that's not going to get you any further. Because I've had people like that, like, nope, bye. Yeah.
And you got to be the thing that you said earlier, which I really like. You said it sounds harsh, but it's really the truth. Unless if you want to meet your goals, you want to be successful. Sometimes you just have to be like, hey, you know what, this isn't working out.
Yeah.
You don't have to be mean about it. You can be like, hey, you know what, I'm just busy. I got to do something.
Yeah. Learning to say no. There's a
nice way of saying no.
Yeah, being able to say no.
Boundaries
is very important. That's
doing boundaries.
Yeah.
Eddie, absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
I wish, like with other guests, you leave and I don't see you for a while, but I think because no, I'm teasing. Always great to see you.
I hope you guys know that off camera, the bullying and berating is 10 times worse, nonstop, incessant.
No, a
Just
pleasure.
Kidding. I love Dr. K.
I say this all the time. You've been a great friend to Michael. It's really refreshing for me to see somebody of your age who actually is so successful and has their head screwed on right. Best of luck to you. I know you're going to go great places. And
thank you.
Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah, we'll do more of these. Happy
Sounds
to.
good.
All right. Thanks, guys.